Dr. Nathaniel Pierce's steady hands never wavered during surgery, but today they trembled as he faced something unprecedented. The unconscious patient before him had iridescent blue skin that seemed to pulse with its own inner light, and what appeared to be crystalline formations protruding elegantly from her shoulders and spine. The emergency alert had come without warning, an alien escape pod crash landing near Houston's Interstellar Medical Center. As the facility's head of xenobiology, Nathaniel had trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared him for her. "Vital signs stabilizing," his assistant reported. "But doctor, these readings, they're like nothing in our database." The alien's wounds were severe, plasma burns across her torso and what appeared to be energy weapon damage to her left side. Her crystalline growths, normally a brilliant azure, had dulled to a concerning gray. As Nathaniel worked to save her life, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was far more than a random crash victim. His suspicions were confirmed when she regained consciousness 3 days later. Her eyes opened, all 4 of them, revealing swirling pools of silver that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Where?" she started, her universal translator kicking in with a slight delay. "You must hide me." Nathaniel checked her vitals. "You're safe here. I'm Dr. Pierce, and you're in a medical facility on Earth." "Earth?" She attempted to sit up but winced. "The primitive world? This is perfect, they'll never think to look here." Her crystalline formations flickered weakly. "I prefer developing world," Nathaniel corrected with a slight smile. "And you are?" She hesitated before responding. "Vera Tal, first daughter of the Crystal Throne. And by treating me, you've just involved yourself in an interstellar civil war." Nathaniel should have called security. Should have contacted the newly formed Earth Defense Force. Instead, he found himself drawn to the determination in those silvery eyes. "Tell me what you need." Over the next few days, as Vera recovered, she revealed fragments of her story. The Crystal Throne, a vast empire spanning 3 galaxies, was fracturing. Her younger brother had attempted a coup, forcing her to flee when her own royal guards turned against her. Nathaniel found himself spending extra hours in her room, fascinated not just by her unique biology but by her sharp wit and unexpected knowledge of Earth culture. She had studied primitive worlds as a hobby, a royal rebellion against her formal duties. "You're Shakespeare," she said one evening, her crystals now glowing a healthy blue. He understood power and betrayal better than any core world philosopher. "You've read Shakespeare?" Nathaniel tried to hide his surprise. "All of it. Though I never understood why Romeo and Juliet didn't just elope to a neutral star system." Her attempt at humor was interrupted by a grimace of pain. Nathaniel noticed her crystals flickering again. "You're pushing yourself too hard. The damage to your crystalline matrix is still healing." "There's no time," she insisted. "My brother's agents will eventually think to search even a primitive world. And when they do..." She reached out, her 4-fingered hand grasping his. "I won't let them hurt this place. Or you." The contact sent an electric shock through Nathaniel's body, not painful, but intense. He saw fragments of images, vast crystal cities floating in space, battles between ships that seemed alive, and something darker lurking behind the coup attempt. "What was that?" he gasped. "I'm sorry," she pulled back. "Crystal Throne genetics, we sometimes project when our emotions are strong. I shouldn't have." "No, it's fascinating," he moved closer, doctor's curiosity warring with something more personal. "Your entire nervous system is crystalline-based, isn't it? The implications for medicine alone." Always the scientist, she smiled, her upper eyes crinkling in amusement while the lower ones remained focused on him. "That's what I..." She stopped suddenly, crystals flaring bright blue. "They're here." As if on cue, the hospital's alarms began to wail. Through the window, Nathaniel saw 3 ships of living crystal descending from the night sky, their designs both beautiful and terrible. He made a decision that would change not just his life, but the course of human history. I know somewhere we can go. Do you trust me? Vera's 4 eyes studied him intently. Against all logic and my centuries of diplomatic training, yes. Yes, I do. As Nathaniel helped her from the bed, supporting her still weak frame, he knew they were about to dive into something far bigger than either of them. But looking at her, this impossible blend of strength and vulnerability, of alien majesty and genuine warmth, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The crystal ships were getting closer. Whatever came next would reshape 2 civilizations. But first, they had to survive the night. The abandoned research facility beneath Houston's old space center hadn't seen life in decades, but tonight it hummed with tension. Nathaniel worked by the glow of Vera's crystals, converting the ancient medical bay into something that could sustain her. Your brother's forces, he asked, connecting another power cell to her healing pod. Still searching the hospital, Vera's crystals pulsed weakly. They won't expect me to hide underground. My people, we don't do well beneath the surface. Nathaniel noticed her discomfort. The crystalline formations along her spine had dulled, and her 4 eyes kept darting to the concrete ceiling. Why's that? We evolved in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant, building our first cities on floating crystal platforms. She shifted in the makeshift bed. Being planet-bound feels wrong. Underground feels like dying. Nathaniel immediately started powering down equipment. We need to find somewhere else. No, her hand caught his arm, sending another jolt of shared consciousness between them. This time he felt her fear, but also her determination. I've spent my life in crystal spires. Perhaps it's time I learned how humans survive. A week passed in their underground haven. Nathaniel smuggled in medical supplies while monitoring the alien ships that now openly patrolled Earth's skies. The world governments were in chaos, some wanting to shoot down the intruders, others seeking diplomatic contact. They're playing right into Raxus's hands, Vera said one evening, watching the news feeds. Her brother's name came out like a curse. He'll offer Earth protection, then slowly strip away its autonomy. It's how he took the Centauri colonies. Why help us? Nathaniel asked, checking her healing wounds. A week ago, you called Earth primitive. Vera's upper eyes focused on the ceiling while her lower pair held his gaze. Because you're different. Your people build in stone and steel instead of crystal, yet you create beauty. You fight with primitive weapons, yet you show mercy. You're young, yet you question everything. Her crystals glowed brighter. And you saw me as a person, not a prize to be claimed. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Then the facility's perimeter alarm shattered it. They found us, Vera struggled to stand. Nathaniel, you have to go. If they find you helping me. That's not happening, he helped her up, supporting her weight. There's a secondary exit through the old rocket testing chamber. We just need to. The main door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a figure that made Vera's crystals flare blood red, a towering warrior in living crystal armor, his own formations jagged and militant. Commander Tyrax, Vera spat. Still my brother's favorite executioner? Princess, he bowed mockingly. Consorting with primitives? How far the mighty have fallen. His eyes fixed on Nathaniel. Step away from her, Earthling. This is beyond your understanding. Nathaniel felt Vera tense beside him. Through their contact, he caught fragments of memory, this same commander ordering the death of her allies, orchestrating the coup that forced her to flee. I understand enough, Nathaniel replied, mind racing through options. I understand that political prisoners have rights under Earth's laws. I understand that firing energy weapons in an underground facility risks structural collapse. He smiled grimly. And I understand that your ships are still searching the hospital, which means you came alone. Tyrax laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You think you can fight me, primitive? I've conquered worlds while your people were learning to split atoms. No, Nathaniel's free hand found the facility's ancient but functional control panel. But I did study this facility's history. Do you know what they tested here? He slammed the emergency purge button before Tyrax could respond. Rocket engines roared to life, filling the chamber with flames hot enough to melt steel. The commander's crystal armor began to crack under the thermal shock. Run! Nathaniel half-carried Vera toward the exit. Behind them, Tyrax's enraged scream competed with the sound of shattering crystal. They emerged into the night air, Vera gasping in relief as her crystals brightened under the starlight. But her joy faded as she looked at Nathaniel. You don't understand what you've done, she touched his face, sharing a vision of vast armadas and burning worlds. Tyrax will survive, and now Earth is a target. My brother will have his excuse for invasion. Then we'll find a way to stop him. Nathaniel caught her hand, holding it against his cheek. Together. Vera's 4 eyes widened. There's no precedent for this, a crystal throne royal and the court would never accept. I don't care about precedent, he stepped closer. I care about you. Their first kiss was like touching a live wire, Vera's crystalline biology interfacing with his nervous system, sharing every sensation, every emotion. Her crystals blazed like blue suns, illuminating the darkness around them. When they finally parted, Vera's expression was torn between joy and fear. They'll hunt us across every star system. Let them try, Nathaniel smiled. Earth's pretty good at surviving impossible odds. Above them, more crystal ships pierced the atmosphere. The real war was about to begin. But for just a moment, under the Texas stars, 2 beings from vastly different worlds found something neither expected, a reason to fight not just for survival, but for a future together. The United Earth Defense Council chamber buzzed with tension as Nathaniel and Vera faced the assembled leaders. Her crystals glowed defiantly despite the armed guards flanking them. Let me understand this, General Rivera's voice cut through the murmurs. You're saying your brother, Prince Raxus, orchestrated this entire crisis to justify conquering Earth? The crystal throne has stagnated. Vera projected images of distant worlds onto the chamber's main screen through her crystalline interface. Raxus believes expansion through conquest will reinvigorate our empire. Earth's resistance to his initial diplomatic overtures made you a perfect target. And we should trust you? A Chinese representative challenged. A fugitive alien princess and a doctor who harbored her? Nathaniel stepped forward. The plasma burns on her body came from her own royal guards. I've treated enough weapons damage to no friendly fire from assassination attempts. The room erupted in argument until Rivera raised his hand. Dr. Pierce's credentials are impeccable. More importantly, the princess's intelligence matches our deep space readings. Raxus's fleet is gathering at the edge of our solar system. 3 days, Vera's crystals pulsed with urgency. That's how long before his fleet arrives. Earth's weapons can't stop crystal ships, they regenerate too quickly. But I know their weakness. Which is why you need our help, Rivera nodded. A primitive world with primitive weapons that might just work where advanced technology fails. Nathaniel watched Vera bristle at the word primitive, but hold her tongue. She'd learned diplomacy over centuries, after all. What surprised him was feeling her emotional response through their growing bond, not anger, but amusement. She'd come to see Earth's primitive nature as its greatest strength. The council deliberated for hours before reaching their decision. Earth would fight, with Vera's guidance. But the price of their help was high. You want me to formally renounce my claim to the Crystal Throne? Vera's 4 eyes narrowed. Breaking 10,000 years of succession laws? Earth won't fight a war only to see you take power and potentially become another threat, Rivera stated flatly. Renounce your claim, help us defeat your brother, and you'll have sanctuary here. Refuse. Nathaniel felt her internal struggle through their connection. The crystal throne wasn't just her birthright, it was part of her biology, her crystalline structures resonating with the living crystal that formed the Empire's heart. Without warning, Vera stood. Her crystals blazed so bright the guards raised their weapons. But instead of attacking, she began an ancient ritual, her voice ringing with power. I, Vera Tal, first daughter of the crystal throne, do hereby sever my connection to the living crystal. Her formations began to dim. I choose exile among the stars, among. She looked at Nathaniel, among humans. The change was immediate and horrifying. Her once brilliant crystals turned cloudy, some cracking and falling away. She collapsed into Nathaniel's arms, her skin losing its luster. What's happening to her? Rivera demanded. The crystal throne isn't just a symbol, Nathaniel checked her vitals, heart racing. It's connected to their biology. She's rejecting part of herself to help us. Through their bond, he felt her pain, but also her certainty. She'd chosen humanity, chosen him, over her own nature. The question was whether she'd survive the transformation. Hours later, in the medical bay, Vera stabilized. Her remaining crystals had taken on a new pattern, smaller but somehow more intricate. When she opened her eyes, now only 2 of them, Nathaniel saw they'd kept their silvery swirls. The council is convinced, he told her softly. Earth will fight. Good, she touched his face, their bond different but unbroken. Because I've discovered something worse than invasion in Raxus's plans. The fleet approaching Earth, it's carrying world-killer weapons. But those would destroy the planet he wants to conquer. No, Vera's new eyes held terrible knowledge. They're designed to eliminate humanity while leaving Earth's resources intact. Raxus doesn't want to conquer humans. He wants to replace them. Nathaniel's blood ran cold. How long do we have? 60 hours, she struggled to sit up. We need to get to Houston's quantum labs. Earth's primitive nuclear weapons won't work against crystal ships, but if we can modify them with crystal resonance technology. We'll need help, Nathaniel supported her. And I know just the team. But Vera, what you did, giving up your heritage. She silenced him with a kiss that felt like starfire. I found something better. Now let's make sure we live long enough to explore it. Outside, the sky crystallized as Raxus's advanced scouts arrived. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's best hope lay in the love between a human doctor and an alien princess who chose to become something entirely new. Houston's quantum labs had become a fortress of desperate innovation. Nathaniel watched as Vera interfaced with Earth's most advanced computers, her remaining crystals pulsing as she transferred knowledge accumulated over centuries. The resonance frequency is key, she explained to the assembled scientists. Crystal ships aren't just grown, they're sung into existence. Disrupt that song. Her hands danced over the holographic displays, showing molecular structures that seemed to defy physics. And the whole fleet falls apart, finished Dr. Reese, head of quantum weapons development. But the energy required to generate these frequencies will burn out every power grid on the continent, Vera confirmed. One shot, one chance. Through their bond, Nathaniel felt her exhaustion. The transformation had taken more from her than she admitted. But there was something else, a growing dread she was trying to hide from him. The lab's warning systems blared. Above, Raxus's main fleet had arrived, thousands of crystal ships turning Earth's sky into a kaleidoscope of deadly beauty. Brother Dear sends a message, Vera's voice was bitter as she translated the crystalline transmission. He offers Earth mercy if they surrender, me. Not happening, Nathaniel moved closer, protective. The world-killer weapons are powering up, she continued. 40 minutes until they're ready to fire. Dr. Reese checked their modifications to Earth's nuclear arsenal. We need an hour to achieve full resonance charge. Then we buy time. Vera straightened, her remaining crystals blazing. I'll open a diplomatic channel. Raxus always did love to gloat. The Quantum Lab's main screen filled with the image of Vera's brother. Prince Raxus was beautiful in the way that poison flowers are beautiful, his crystalline formations arranged in perfect, deadly symmetry. Sister, his voice rang like breaking icicles. What have you done to yourself? Evolved, Vera stood proud despite her altered form. Something our empire forgot how to do millennia ago. By becoming less? Those primitive humans have corrupted you. His eyes found Nathaniel. Speaking of corruption. The human stays, Vera's hand found Nathaniel's. He's why I'm offering you one chance, brother. Retreat. Leave Earth to develop on its own path. Raxus laughed. You always were a romantic fool, sister. These humans are a resource to be harvested, nothing more. Their bodies will feed our crystal gardens, their cities become raw material for proper crystal throne architecture. That's not going to happen, Nathaniel stepped forward. Earth doesn't bow to tyrants, no matter how shiny they are. Through their bond, Nathaniel felt Vera's sudden spike of fear. Not of Raxus, but for what she was about to do. I'm sorry, she whispered to him. Then, to Raxus, you're right about one thing, brother. I am a romantic fool. Her crystals began to pulse with increasing intensity. Which is why I loaded the resonance frequency into my own crystalline matrix the moment you arrived. Horror dawned on Raxus's face. You'll die. Maybe, she smiled sadly. But your world killers will never fire. She turned to Nathaniel, her eyes full of starlight and sorrow. I love you. Before he could react, Vera's crystals erupted with blinding energy. She became a living transmitter, broadcasting the fatal frequency directly into the heart of Raxus's fleet. The sky shattered. Crystal ships screamed as their structures destabilized. The world-killer weapons imploded, their carefully tuned matrices torn apart by their own resonance. But Vera was screaming too, her remaining crystals cracking, her very cells being torn apart by the power she channeled. Nathaniel caught her as she fell, their bond flooding with her pain. Through it, he felt something else, the quantum computers, the modified nuclear weapons, all connecting through her into a network of destructive harmony. Not alone, he pressed his forehead to hers, letting the energy flow through their connection. Human nerve endings merged with crystalline matrices, creating something entirely new. Together, they became the conductor for Earth's symphony of survival. Above them, Raxus's fleet dissolved into a rain of inert crystal shards. The prince's final transmission cut off in a burst of static. When the light faded, Vera lay still in Nathaniel's arms. Her remaining crystals had shattered, leaving only tiny fragments embedded in her skin like stardust. But through their bond, strengthened rather than broken by the transformation, he felt her heart beating. Different now, more human, yet still carrying an echo of crystal song. She opened her eyes, still silver, still containing galaxies. Did we? We won, he kissed her gently. Earth is safe. Not Earth, she touched his face. Us. Did we survive? We did more than survive, he helped her stand as dawn broke over Houston. We evolved. Around them, crystal fragments fell like snow, each piece catching the sunlight and refracting it into countless possibilities that, like them, were neither fully human nor fully crystal, but something gloriously, unexpectedly new. 1 year after the Crystal War, Earth had changed. Crystal shards from Raxus's destroyed fleet had seeded new technologies, new possibilities. But in a quiet garden outside the Houston Interstellar Medical Center, the real miracle was much smaller and more personal. Nathaniel watched as Vera tended to her crystal roses, plants that were neither fully Earth flora nor crystal throne biology, but a beautiful hybrid of both. Like her, they had evolved into something new. The Council's representatives are waiting, he reminded her gently. Through their bond, he felt her mix of anticipation and anxiety. Let them wait, she straightened, starlight dancing in her silver eyes. The Crystal Throne's remaining worlds won't disappear in the next 5 minutes. The aftermath of Raxus's defeat had left a power vacuum in the Empire. Most colony worlds had declared independence, but some still clung to the old ways. They had requested Vera's help in building something new. You don't have to go, Nathaniel said, though he knew her decision was made. We have to go, she corrected, taking his hand. The touch sent familiar sparks through their bond. Earth needs ambassadors who understand both worlds. And the colonies need to see what evolution looks like. She gestured to herself, no longer the crystal-adorned princess, not fully human, but a bridge between worlds. The tiny crystal fragments in her skin caught the sunlight, reminding them both of that dawn when they'd saved Earth. Besides, she smiled, someone needs to show them that primitive doesn't mean weak. Inside the medical center, now part of Earth's first xenological university, they passed the lab where they'd first met. Nathaniel had transformed it into a research center studying the intersection of human and crystal biology. Their own unique bond had opened new frontiers in medical science. The council chamber fell silent as they entered. Representatives from Earth sat alongside delegates from the crystal colonies, their differences stark but their purpose unified. The independent worlds have a proposal, the council leader began. We need leadership that understands both the old ways and the new. Someone who has proven they can bridge impossible gaps. Vera's hand tightened in Nathaniel's. I renounced my claim to the crystal throne. We're not offering you a throne, a crystal delegate's formations pulsed. We're offering you a challenge. Help us build something that's never existed, a true union of worlds. Through their bond, Nathaniel felt Vera's spirit soar with possibilities. She had lost her royal crystals but gained something greater, the chance to reshape civilization itself. I accept, she said, on one condition. She pulled Nathaniel closer. Earth's primitive innovation and crystal wisdom must have equal voice. We build this future together, or not at all. The delegates murmured agreement. As the formal proceedings began, Nathaniel and Vera shared a private moment through their bond, images of their journey from that first meeting in the medical bay to this moment of transformation. Ready to change the universe, Dr. Pierce, she whispered. He kissed her, feeling the familiar spark of human nerve endings meeting crystal-enhanced biology. As long as we do it together, Princess. Not Princess anymore, she corrected. Just Vera. You're Vera. Above them, the Texas sky shimmered with possibilities. Crystal ships, peaceful now, carried Earth's first ambassadors to distant worlds. In gardens across Houston, crystal roses bloomed alongside Earth flowers. And in the heart of the medical center, a new generation of students learned that love could bridge not just cultures or species, but the very stars themselves. They had survived invasion, transformation, and the death of an empire. But their greatest adventure, building a future that honored both their worlds while creating something entirely new, was just beginning. As Vera stepped forward to address the council, her voice carrying the strength of Earth and the song of crystal, Nathaniel felt their shared destiny crystallize into certainty. They were no longer just human and alien, doctor and princess, primitive and advanced. They were proof that evolution meant not just survival, but transcendence. And in that transcendence, they had found not just love, but hope for all their worlds.